My ex said I'd never find someone like her. 2 years later, she came back with a new name and a request she never thought she'd make. When I first met my wife Megan, she was so perfect that she made me believe in love again. Not only was she extremely beautiful, but she also volunteered at a pediatric hospice and worked as a pro bono lawyer for disabled people whose benefits were cut, facing homelessness. She was literally perfect. I proposed to her after just 1 year of dating, and when she said yes, it felt like my heart had wings. I swear I was over the moon. Before I continue, you need to know that even though she was a pro bono lawyer, she was making $75,000 a year, while I was making around $500,000 a year as a tech entrepreneur. Plus, the last girlfriend I had gave me financial trauma. She'd text me for large amounts of money practically every week, and when I realized what was going on and tried to say no, she emotionally blackmailed me. It was always a new excuse. I'm so lost in life, it's so hard, I can't even work, or my mom is sick again, I need this for her medication, and her favorite, you're so ungrateful, do you even love me? Because I was raised to never give up on relationships, I stayed with that girlfriend for 2 years until she broke up with me after I finally stood my ground. Ever since then, I've been ultra careful with money, so I hope you can understand why I wanted Megan to sign a prenup. I tried to explain why and outlined everything to make sure she didn't think I didn't trust her or something, but still, she shut down. Suddenly, the air felt tight enough to snap. "Wow," she said, her tone portraying a feeling of betrayal. "I didn't know you were that type of guy." My heart instantly started hurting, and I immediately jumped in to reassure her, "No, baby, I love you, and if anything ever happens, I will always make sure that you are covered no matter what." But this wasn't enough for her. Tears started welling in her eyes. She probably expected me to instantly change my mind, to tell her I was sorry and take it back. If it was the old me, the one before my ex, I probably would have. But I had already sworn to myself that I was never going back to financial abuse, so I just held her in silence, wondering if I had chosen another wolf in sheep's clothing. I guess she picked up on me being adamant about my decision, because that's when she walked right out of our shared home and drove over to her mom's place. I honestly didn't know what to do. On one hand, I had this nagging feeling in my gut that she wasn't the one, but on the other hand, a part of me felt guilty, like I had somehow failed her. I decided to give her some space, let her process everything. I never heard from her again, until 1 week later. That's when she knocked on the door. Her eyes were puffy, and her mouth was set like she'd already made up her mind. She didn't waste time, didn't ask how I was, didn't offer a hug. She just sat down at the kitchen table and took a deep breath, like she was about to deliver a verdict. "I can't marry someone who doesn't trust me," she said. I just sat there feeling everything and nothing at the same time. She stood up, walked to the door, and finished with, "I really hope you find peace one day." I didn't even realize I was crying until I tasted salt. As soon as the door shut, it all came spilling out. But even through the heartbreak, I sensed something. I had dodged a bullet. Over the next few days, this feeling only solidified, so much so that I decided to make a public announcement about it. You see, my cousin is an influencer whose page is about mental health advocacy. Naturally, abuse was a big topic he liked to cover. So, I decided to submit a story. Not about Megan and her shenanigans. In fact, I didn't even mention her name. I simply informed him of the signs and causes of financial abuse, and that men could suffer from it too. In the caption was a GoFundMe for a local women's domestic abuse center, which I started by donating $10,000 to. It gained a lot of traction very quickly. It made me feel like everything truly does happen for a reason. That's when I got the text. It was Megan. She sent me a link to the post and said, "I wonder what the world will think of this." In the next photo she sent, her arms and legs were covered in bruises that I never gave her. I was trying to make sense of it, but I couldn't. Was she threatening me? Soon after, I got a notification that I was tagged in a post on Instagram. The photo was the one she had just sent me, with the caption, "Sometimes the ones who preach the loudest about abuse are the ones doing it behind closed doors. #BelieveWomen." My chest tightened. Trying to ruin my finances was one thing, but my life, the one I had built from the ground up, that was a different story. I was ready to get her back, except 100 times worse. I immediately started gathering evidence. Every text, every email, every interaction we'd ever had. I wasn't going to let Megan destroy everything I'd worked for with her lies. My hand shook as I took screenshots of our conversations, especially the ones where she threatened to make me pay if I didn't give her money. The sick feeling in my stomach grew with each message I reviewed. Memories of our 3-year relationship, now tainted by her vindictiveness, flooded back. I organized everything chronologically, adding timestamps and notes to provide context, creating a digital paper trail of her escalating behavior. After 3 hours of compiling evidence, my eyes burning from staring at screens, I made my own post. I didn't attack her or call her names. I simply shared the truth with receipts to back it up. Screenshots of her demanding money. First asking for loans that were never repaid, then outright demanding cash, her threats when I refused, the timeline of our relationship ending, and her escalating behavior. I even included the audio recording from when she showed up at my apartment at 2 in the morning, pounding on the door and screaming that she'd ruin me if I didn't take her back, her words slurring from whatever she'd been drinking that night. The response was immediate and overwhelming. People who had initially believed her accusations started questioning her story. Friends messaged me privately, saying they'd noticed red flags in her behavior before, but had been afraid to mention them. My post was shared hundreds of times across multiple platforms, and the tide of public opinion shifted dramatically. Some of her closest allies even reached out to apologize for believing her without hearing my side. Megan didn't take this well. She created fake accounts to harass me online, leaving vicious comments on everything from my professional profiles to old vacation photos. She called my workplace and told my boss I had stolen from previous companies, forcing me to have an uncomfortable conversation with my manager. She even contacted my parents with wild stories about me having substance problems, causing my mother sleepless nights until I could convince her it was all fabrication. But each time I documented everything and added it to my growing file of evidence. The folder on my desktop expanding like a digital tumor I couldn't excise. The final straw came when I walked out to my car one morning and found all 4 tires slashed, the rubber hanging in ribbons from the rims. A note under the windshield wiper simply said, "Pay up or worse next time," written in the looping handwriting I recognized all too well from birthday cards and love notes she'd once given me. I called the police, filed a report, and used the evidence I'd gathered to get a restraining order against her. The officer who took my statement looked through my evidence file and remarked he'd rarely seen such thorough documentation of harassment. With the legal protection in place, things started to calm down. The constant notifications from unknown accounts slowed to a trickle. I could answer my phone without my heart racing. But then mutual friends began reaching out with their own Megan stories, as if her targeting me had opened a floodgate of shared experiences. Jordan told me how she'd borrowed his car and returned it with a dent in the passenger door, then denied responsibility despite the fresh damage. Morgan shared screenshots of Megan asking to borrow money with no intention of paying it back, always with some emergency that later proved false. Even her former roommate, Linda, contacted me about how Megan had stolen her clothes and denied it, despite being caught wearing them at a party they both attended. As these stories spread through our social circle like wildfire, Megan's support network shrank rapidly. I heard through mutual friends that she lost her job after showing up at my workplace and causing a scene despite the restraining order, screaming accusations across the lobby until security escorted her out. Her roommate kicked her out after discovering she'd been using her credit card without permission to buy designer clothes. Within 2 months, Megan had burned nearly every bridge she had, leaving her isolated and increasingly desperate. I didn't feel good about her downfall, despite everything. I remembered the good times we'd had before things went bad, weekend trips to the coast, cooking elaborate meals together, the way she could make me laugh even on my worst days. When I heard she was struggling to find work because of her reputation, I anonymously helped her get an interview at a friend's company across town. I made sure my friend knew nothing about our history, just that she needed a chance. It was the kind of thing the old Megan would have appreciated. To my surprise, Megan got the job and seemed to be turning things around. She started seeing a therapist and even made public apologies on social media for her past behavior and poor choices. She didn't name me specifically, but it was clear who she was talking about. For a while, it seemed like she was genuinely changing, and I allowed myself to hope that perhaps the worst was behind us both. During this time of relative calm, I met Quinn at a friend's birthday party. Quinn was funny, kind, and refreshingly straightforward, with an easy laugh and thoughtful questions that showed genuine interest. After my experience with Megan, I appreciated Quinn's honesty and direct communication style. We started dating, taking things slow, and building a healthy relationship based on mutual respect. For the first time in over 1 year, I felt like I could breathe freely again. 6 months into my relationship with Quinn, the gifts started arriving at my apartment. First, it was a book I'd mentioned liking during my relationship with Megan, wrapped in familiar paper with no note. Then flowers were delivered to my door, the arrangement suspiciously similar to ones she'd given me before. Then more personal items that showed Megan had been paying attention to my social media despite being blocked. A coffee mug from a brand I recently posted about, a vinyl record from a band Quinn and I had seen in concert. I never acknowledged the gifts, hoping she'd stop, but each delivery sent a chill down my spine. She didn't stop. Instead, she escalated by showing up at restaurants when Quinn and I were having dinner, claiming it was just a coincidence while staring at us from across the room. She'd send messages from new accounts saying things like, "She'll never understand you like I do, and I've changed." Give me another chance, sometimes dozens in a single night, until I blocked each new profile. When I didn't respond, she started harassing Quinn, sending messages claiming I was still in love with her and that Quinn was just a rebound. She even dug up old photos of us together and sent them with manipulative captions suggesting our relationship was ongoing. Quinn was understanding but concerned about Megan's increasingly erratic behavior, and I worried constantly that the stress would eventually become too much. The situation reached a breaking point when my neighbor called one night to tell me someone was trying to jimmy the lock on my apartment door. I called the police, who arrived to find Megan with a screwdriver and a bouquet of flowers, her eyes wild and unfocused. She claimed she just wanted to surprise me, but the restraining order violation and attempted break-in led to her arrest. I watched from my window as they led her to the police car, her face streaked with mascara from crying. The court mandated therapy and treatment for Megan. Her parents, whom I'd never met during our relationship, finally got involved and helped her get the help she needed. She was diagnosed with several mental health conditions that explained some of her behavior, though it didn't excuse it. The judge made it clear that any further violations would result in jail time, not just treatment. For 1 year, I heard nothing from Megan. Through mutual friends, I learned she had moved to another state to live with her sister and was continuing treatment. She apparently started volunteering at a crisis center, using her experience to help others recognize unhealthy relationship patterns. I hoped the work was as therapeutic for her as it sounded. After a full year of peace, I finally deleted the evidence file I'd kept. I didn't need it anymore, and holding on to it felt like keeping one foot in the past. Quinn moved in with me, and we built a comfortable life together. We adopted a dog named Charlie, a goofy mixed breed with one floppy ear who quickly became the center of our little family. Sometimes I think about Megan and hope she's doing well. Not because I want her back in my life, I don't, but because I believe people can change if they truly want to. The experience taught me a lot about setting boundaries and recognizing red flags early. I learned that kindness doesn't mean letting people treat you badly, and that helping someone doesn't obligate you to keep them in your life. Quinn and I have been together for 2 years now. We have our disagreements like any couple, but we talk through them respectfully. No manipulation, no threats, no power plays, just two people who care about each other working things out. I still get anxious sometimes when my phone buzzes with a notification from an unknown number. Old habits die hard, I guess, but those moments are getting rarer. The other day, I saw someone who looked like Megan at the grocery store, and I realized I felt nothing, no fear, no anger, just a brief moment of recognition before continuing with my shopping. I don't know what the future holds for me and Quinn. We're talking about buying a house together next year. Maybe we'll get married someday, maybe not. What matters is that we're building something healthy and real, one day at a time. As for Megan, I hope she found whatever she was looking for, just as long as it's far away from me. Sometimes I wonder if that's how all relationships should end, with indifference instead of hatred. It took me nearly 2 years to reach this point, but the journey wasn't as straightforward as I'd like to pretend. There were moments of rage, despair, and vindication that I had to wade through before finally arriving at this peaceful shore of apathy. After that final confrontation with Megan at my apartment, where she shattered my favorite coffee mug against the wall and screamed accusations until her voice went hoarse, I decided I needed to protect myself more permanently. The emotional whiplash of her alternating between tearful apologies and vicious attacks had left me hollow. I gathered all the evidence I had, the threatening texts that would wake me at 3 in the morning, the recordings of her screaming at me until my neighbors called to check if I was safe, the photos of property she'd damaged, including my laptop and the guitar my grandfather had given me. I posted them online with timestamps. I wasn't trying to cancel her. I just wanted people to know the truth about the relationship I had hidden behind forced smiles and vague explanations. The response was overwhelming in ways I hadn't anticipated. Friends who had taken her side, convinced by her tearful accounts of my alleged emotional neglect, reached out to apologize. They sent long messages describing how Megan had manipulated them with carefully crafted stories that painted her as the victim. Even her closest friends, who had known her since high school, started distancing themselves from her. The post spread through our social circles faster than I expected, jumping from mutual friends to acquaintances to people I barely knew. Within days, I had enough support and witness statements to get a restraining order against her. Megan didn't take it well, her reaction confirming every fear I'd had about ending things. She created fake accounts with names just similar enough to our mutual friends to trick me into accepting their requests. She used these to contact me, claiming I was lying about everything, that I had edited the recordings, that I had damaged my own possessions to frame her. When that didn't work, she started reaching out to my family members one by one. My mom called me, confused, after Megan told her I had a drinking problem and needed an intervention. My younger sister received messages about how I had supposedly cheated throughout the relationship. My boss pulled me aside after receiving emails claiming I was stealing from the company and selling client information to competitors. Then came the vandalism, escalating from annoying to frightening in a matter of weeks. I walked out one morning to find my car covered in eggs and scratches down both sides, the word liar keyed into the hood. 2 days later, someone had stuffed my apartment mailbox with rotting food. The security camera from my apartment building caught her in the act both times, her face contorted with a rage I recognized all too well, which only added to my growing file of evidence against her. As Megan's behavior got worse, more people started coming forward with their own stories about her, as if my public post had broken a dam of silence. A guy from college described how she spread rumors that ruined his reputation after he broke up with her, forcing him to transfer schools. A former roommate shared how Megan had stolen her clothes and money, then gaslighted her into believing she was just forgetful and irresponsible. A CO worker revealed how Megan had sabotaged her presentation to get promoted ahead of her. The pattern was clear to everyone now, a mosaic of manipulation that spanned years. Within 3 months, Megan's life was falling apart in a way that should have felt like justice, but somehow didn't. She lost her job after showing up at my workplace and causing a scene, screaming about betrayal while throwing my personal items from her purse onto the lobby floor. Her roommate kicked her out after finding her going through my old social media photos at 3 in the morning, printing them out and writing notes in the margins. Even her parents called me, their voices tired and familiar with an apology that sounded well-rehearsed, apologizing for their daughter's behavior and asking what they could do to help. I should have felt satisfied, but I didn't. Seeing someone self-destruct isn't as satisfying as revenge movies make it seem. There's a hollowness to it, watching someone you once loved spiral downward, even if they deserve the consequences of their actions. So, when I heard through mutual friends that Megan was struggling to find work, sleeping on couches, and running out of people willing to help her, I anonymously helped her get a job at my friend Taylor's company. Taylor knew the situation but agreed to give her a chance as long as she never knew I was involved. I told myself it was closure, not kindness. For a while, things improved. Megan started therapy and even posted a public apology on social media, acknowledging her behavior without naming me specifically. She seemed to be getting better, attending group sessions for anger management and reconnecting with family members who had distanced themselves. I was happy to move on with my life, especially after meeting Quinn at a friend's housewarming party. Quinn was everything Megan wasn't: calm, secure, respectful of boundaries. For the first time in years, I felt safe enough to be vulnerable again. Then the gifts started arriving at my door, small things at first, books I had mentioned liking years ago, my favorite snacks from that specialty store across town, handwritten notes about reconnecting and second chances we deserved. I ignored them, hoping she would stop, but they kept coming with increasing frequency. Quinn was understanding but concerned, especially when Megan started showing up at restaurants where we were having dinner or accidentally running into us at the movies, always acting surprised to see us despite choosing seats just close enough to maintain eye contact. The final straw came when Quinn started receiving messages from unknown numbers describing personal details about our relationship that only Megan could have known. The pet names we used, the weekend trips we had taken, even what our bedroom looked like. She was clearly watching us, learning our routines, finding ways to insert herself into our lives like a virus reinfecting a system that had almost healed. One night, we were awakened by the sound of someone trying to pick the lock on our front door, the metal scratching against metal in the darkness. I called the police while Quinn turned on all the lights and shouted through the door. By the time officers arrived, Megan was gone, but the security camera had captured everything. Her determined expression as she worked on our lock, the small bag she carried that we later learned contained duct tape, rope, and a knife. This time, the consequences were serious. Megan was arrested for attempted breaking and entering, violation of the restraining order, and harassment. The judge ordered mandatory psychiatric treatment and monitoring. Part of me felt guilty, wondering if I could have helped her earlier, but a bigger part felt relief washing over me like cool water. For 6 months, we heard nothing from her. Then I received a letter from a treatment center in another state. Megan explained she had been diagnosed with several mental health conditions and was finally getting proper help. She was moving across the country to start fresh and promised never to contact me again. The letter ended with an apology that, for once, seemed genuine rather than manipulative. I kept tabs on her through mutual connections for a while. She got a job at a crisis center, using her own experiences to help others recognize unhealthy relationship patterns. She started a small support group for people working through similar issues. From a distance, she seemed to be channeling her intensity into something positive. After 1 year without any contact or incidents, I deleted the evidence file I had kept. It felt like closing a chapter that had gone on too long. Quinn and I celebrated with a weekend trip to the beach, where we talked about our future without Megan's shadow hanging over us. We found a small house with a yard big enough for the dog Quinn always wanted. I got promoted at work, and Quinn started taking night classes to finish a degree. Our life together became wonderfully ordinary weekend brunches, arguing about whose turn it was to do laundry, planning vacations we couldn't quite afford yet. Looking back, I realized the whole experience taught me about boundaries, not just with romantic partners, but with everyone in my life. I learned that kindness doesn't mean letting people treat you badly, and that helping someone doesn't make you responsible for fixing them. Sometimes I think about reaching out to see how Megan is doing, but I know better now. Some doors are better left closed. Some chapters are better left in the past. Quinn and I are having dinner with friends tonight. We'll probably talk about normal things, work stress, the new restaurant downtown, whether we should get a second dog. Megan won't come up in conversation. She rarely does anymore, and that's exactly how it should be. I check my phone as we walk to the restaurant. Quinn notices and squeezes my hand. "Everything okay?" she asks. I nod and put my phone away. It was just a work email, nothing important. The restaurant is only a few blocks from our apartment, one of those places with string lights on the patio and chalkboard menus. Our friends Thomas and Karen are already waiting at a table when we arrive. The conversation flows easily. Thomas talks about his promotion at work. Karen shows us pictures of her new puppy. Quinn mentions the hiking trip we're planning next month. Normal life stuff. Good stuff. I'm halfway through my meal when my phone buzzes again. I ignore it at first, but when it buzzes 3 more times in quick succession, I excuse myself to check. 4 new notifications from Facebook, all comments on a photo I was tagged in last week, a picture of Quinn and me at her brother's wedding. My stomach drops when I see the username. It's not Megan's account, but I recognize her writing style immediately. She's created a fake profile with the name Elizabeth J. The comments are subtle enough that others might not notice anything strange, but I know they're meant for me. Such a cute couple. Hope you're happy with your second choice. Quinn looks nice, but doesn't she look a bit like someone else we know? Remember that time at the lake house? Good memories. Wonder if Quinn knows about your past. I block the account immediately and return to the table. Quinn gives me a concerned look, but I shake my head slightly. Not now, not here. Later that night, after we get home, I tell Quinn about the comments. She's known about Megan from the beginning of our relationship. Not every detail, but enough to understand why I'm worried. Should we report it? She asks. I'm already pulling up screenshots and saving them to the folder I hoped I'd never have to open again. Evidence. I labeled it back when things first got bad with Megan. I thought I was being paranoid then. Now I'm glad I kept it. The next morning, I contact a lawyer friend who helps me file for a restraining order. I also post publicly about what's happening, with timestamped screenshots showing Megan's pattern of harassment. I'm careful to stick to facts, no emotional language, just evidence. Support comes quickly. Friends I haven't heard from in years message me with their own Megan stories. Apparently, I wasn't the first person she fixated on, just the most recent. The public opinion shifts firmly in my favor, and the restraining order is granted without much trouble. I think that will be the end of it. I'm wrong. Megan creates more fake accounts. She contacts my boss with lies about my work ethic and fabricated stories about inappropriate behavior. Thankfully, my boss has known me for years and doesn't believe her, but it's still embarrassing to have to explain the situation. She finds my parents' phone number and calls them late at night with stories about how I mistreated her. My mom is shaken by the calls, and my dad suggests I get the police involved again. The final straw comes when I walk out to my car one morning and find all 4 tires slashed. There's no note, no proof it was Megan, but the timing is too perfect to be a coincidence. The apartment complex has security cameras, and sure enough, they catch her in the act. I add the footage to my evidence folder and file a police report. Word gets around. Mutual friends start distancing themselves from Megan. I hear through the grapevine that she lost her job after showing up drunk and making a scene about me, though we haven't worked together in years. Her roommate kicks her out after finding a wall of photos of me in her bedroom. She's spiraling, and while I don't wish her ill, I can't help feeling relieved that people are finally seeing what I saw. Then something unexpected happens. A mutual friend, Jordan, reaches out to me. He tells me Megan is homeless, staying on friends' couches but running out of options. Her behavior has burned too many bridges. He asks if there's anything I can do to help. My first instinct is to say no. After everything she's done, why should I help her? But then I remember the Megan I first met, before things got bad. She was funny and kind. Something broke her, and while that's not my fault or my responsibility to fix, I can't just do nothing. I contact an old college friend who runs a small marketing firm in another city. I don't mention Megan by name, just say I know someone with the right qualifications who needs a fresh start. He agrees to interview her, and to my surprise, he hires her. Megan moves away. I hear through mutual friends that she started therapy. She makes public apologies on social media, not just to me, but to others she's hurt. She seems to be getting better, finding stability. I'm genuinely happy for her. 6 months pass without incident. Quinn and I move in together officially. We adopt a dog, a scruffy terrier mix we name Bandit. Life is good. Then the gifts start arriving. First, it's a book left on my car, one Megan and I had talked about years ago. There's no note, but I know it's from her. Then flowers delivered to my workplace. Then handwritten letters about how much she's changed, how therapy has helped her see her mistakes, how grateful she is for the job opportunity. I don't respond to any of it. I add everything to the evidence folder and try to move on, but Megan doesn't stop. She starts showing up at places she knows I'll be, the coffee shop near my apartment, the park where Quinn and I walk Bandit, always with the same story. She was just in the neighborhood, and what a crazy coincidence to run into me. When she starts targeting Quinn, leaving notes on her car and messaging her on social media, I know I have to act. Quinn is scared, and honestly, so am I. The breaking point comes when our apartment building security camera catches Megan trying to pick the lock on our door at 2 a.m. The police arrest her, and this time the judge isn't lenient. She's ordered into a psychiatric treatment program with strict conditions about contacting me or Quinn. I don't hear anything about Megan for almost 1 year. Then Jordan calls to tell me she's completed her treatment and moved to Seattle. She's working at a women's shelter, using her experience to help others recognize unhealthy relationship patterns. She's found purpose in her pain, he says. I'm glad for her, truly. After another 6 months without any contact, I finally delete the evidence folder. It feels like closing a door that's been left ajar for too long. Quinn and I get engaged the following spring. We buy a small house with a yard for Bandit. I get promoted at work. Life moves forward. Sometimes I still think about Megan, but not with fear or anger anymore. I hope she's found peace. I hope she's still helping others. I hope she's okay. But I don't reach out, and I don't look her up online. Some doors should stay closed, not out of bitterness, but because opening them serves no purpose. We've both moved on to better chapters. Tonight, Quinn mentioned maybe starting a family soon. The thought both terrifies and excites me. I'm not the same person I was when I met Megan. I understand boundaries better now. I recognize red flags. I know the difference between helping someone and trying to save them. These are valuable lessons, but I don't give Megan credit for teaching them to me. That would be giving her too much power in my story. These are lessons I learned for myself through pain and healing and the support of people who truly care about me. Quinn is calling me from the kitchen. Dinner's ready. Bandit is dancing around her feet, hoping for scraps. This is my life now, simple, stable, happy. And somewhere out there, I hope Megan has found the same. I walk to the kitchen, the smell of Quinn's homemade lasagna filling our apartment, the rich aroma of tomato sauce, herbs, and melted cheese making my stomach growl appreciatively. It's been 8 months since I last heard from Megan. 8 months of peace, 8 months of rebuilding my life piece by piece, like assembling a jigsaw puzzle that someone had scattered across the floor. Hey, I was thinking we could watch that new documentary tonight, Quinn says as she sets plates on our small dining table. Her dark, curly hair is pulled back in a messy bun, and there's a smudge of tomato sauce on her cheek that I find endearing. The late afternoon sunlight streams through our kitchen window, catching the tiny dust particles floating in the air. I don't tell her about my thoughts of Megan. Instead, I nod and help finish setting the table, arranging the silverware just so. We eat dinner, talking about our days. Quinn tells me about a difficult customer at the bookstore where she works, an older man who insisted on arguing about the ending of every novel she recommended. I tell her about my progress on a coding project, how I finally solved the bug that had been haunting me for days. Normal conversation, safe conversation, the kind that doesn't leave your heart racing. After dinner, my phone buzzes with a notification. It's from Reddit. Someone has tagged me in a post. The familiar chime sounds innocent enough, but something in me already knows. My stomach drops when I see the username, TruthTeller492, one of Megan's many fake accounts. I recognize the pattern. She always includes numbers that have significance to her, like her birthday, April 9th. The post is in our relationships. It's a long story about how I manipulated and abused her, how I turned everyone against her with lies. It's detailed enough that anyone who knows us would recognize who she's talking about, even though she changed our names. She calls me Alex instead of Adam, but the details, my job, my hobbies, even the scar on my left hand from a childhood accident, are all there. Quinn notices my expression and asks, "What's wrong?" I show her the post, watching as her warm brown eyes scan the text, widening slightly at the more outrageous claims. "She's starting again," I say quietly, my voice barely audible over the hum of our refrigerator. That night, I can't sleep. The sheets feel too warm, then too cold. Quinn's gentle breathing beside me usually soothes me, but not tonight. I get up and go to my computer. I still have the folder, the one labeled evidence. Inside are screenshots of text messages, emails, social media posts, all the proof of Megan's manipulation and lies from before. The gaslighting, the circular arguments that left me questioning my own sanity, the threats she made when I tried to leave. I hadn't wanted to use it. I'd hoped we could both just move on with our lives like ships passing in the night, never to cross paths again. But now I know I need to protect myself. The next morning I post my response. I include timestamped screenshots showing her contradictions, her threats, her manipulation. I tag mutual friends who had witnessed her behavior. I keep my tone factual, not angry. I refuse to stoop to her level of emotional manipulation. Within hours, the tide of public opinion shifts. People who had started to believe her story now see the truth. Some send me private messages of support, others publicly call her out. The notification bell on my phone won't stop chiming. I file for a restraining order that afternoon. The evidence is overwhelming, and it's granted quickly. The courthouse is cold and impersonal, but I feel a weight lift when the judge signs the order. I think that will be the end of it. I'm wrong. 3 days later, my boss calls me into his office. The walk down the hallway feels like walking to an execution. Someone has been emailing the company, claiming I stole code from a previous job. The emails come from different addresses, but I know it's Megan. The writing style, the specific accusations, it's all her. Thankfully, my work speaks for itself. My boss trusts me, and I show him the restraining order. He promises to block the email addresses and ignore any future accusations. His hand on my shoulder is reassuring, but I still feel exposed, vulnerable. That weekend I visit my parents. They seem uncomfortable when I arrive, exchanging glances when they think I'm not looking. My mom finally admits that they've been getting strange phone calls from a woman claiming to be worried about my mental health. The woman said I was making up stories about an ex-girlfriend and becoming paranoid. I explain everything to them, showing them the evidence folder. They believe me, but I can see the worry in their eyes, not about me being unstable, but about how far Megan might go. My father, usually stoic, suggests I consider moving to another state. The fact that he's this concerned tells me everything. I get my answer the next morning when I find my car with slashed tires and liars scratched into the paint. The morning dew makes the scratches glisten like fresh wounds. I call the police. They take pictures, file a report, and I show them the restraining order in the evidence folder. They promise to patrol my neighborhood more frequently, but we all know they can't watch 24/7. The officer's sympathetic look tells me he's seen this before, and that it rarely ends well. I install security cameras at my apartment. Quinn is scared but supportive. She stays with a friend for a few nights until we feel safer. The apartment feels empty without her, and I jump at every sound. The final straw for Megan comes 1 week later. She creates another post, this time with even wilder accusations. But now people are ready. Mutual acquaintances comment with their own stories about her manipulation. Former friends share screenshots of her contradicting herself. Someone even posts video of her vandalizing my car, caught on a neighbor's security camera. The footage is grainy but unmistakable. Her distinctive walk, the red jacket she always wears. Her social media accounts go quiet after that. I hear through mutual friends that she's lost her job after her boss saw the posts. Her roommate kicked her out after learning about her behavior. She's staying with her parents in another state. I should feel vindicated, but mostly I feel tired. For months there's silence. I start to relax. Quinn moves in permanently. We adopt Bandit, a scruffy terrier mix from the local shelter. Life settles into a comfortable routine. Morning coffee, work, evening walks with Bandit, weekend brunches at the cafe around the corner. The simple pleasures I once took for granted now feel precious. Then I get an email from a former XIO worker. Megan is looking for work in their industry. She seems different, they say, calmer. She's been seeing a therapist. She's made public apologies on social media for her past behavior without naming names. Despite everything, I feel a twinge of sympathy. I know what it's like to hit bottom, to need a second chance, to wish someone would just believe in you. I don't contact her directly. That would violate the restraining order, and honestly, I don't want to open that door. But I do send an anonymous recommendation to a company looking for someone with her skills. I don't lie about her abilities. She is talented. I just give her the opportunity to prove herself. It's a mistake. 2 weeks later, flowers arrive at our apartment. The card says, "Thank you for believing in me. I knew you still cared." The handwriting is unmistakable, looping and precise. There's no name, but I know who they're from. I throw them away and don't respond. More gifts follow, books left on my car, notes sent to my work. She's figured out that I helped her get the job, and she's misinterpreted it completely. Then she starts showing up places, the coffee shop where Quinn and I have breakfast on Saturdays, the park where we walk Bandit, always at a distance, never approaching, but watching. I feel her eyes on me like physical weight. Quinn is terrified. I update the police report and provide new evidence that Megan is violating the restraining order. The final breaking point comes when Quinn calls me at work, hysterical. Someone tried to break into our apartment while she was home alone. She heard someone at the door, then saw the knob turning. When she called out, asking who was there, the person ran away, but she saw Megan through the peephole. The police arrest Megan that evening with a restraining order violation and attempted break-in. She faces serious charges. Her lawyer negotiates a plea deal, court-mandated psychiatric treatment and monitoring, plus moving at least 500 miles away for 1 year. We hear nothing. I keep the evidence folder just in case, but I don't open it anymore. Then I get a letter from a therapist in Colorado. With Megan's permission, she writes to tell me that Megan has been making real progress. She's stable on medication. She's working as a peer counselor, helping others with similar issues. She understands now how wrong her behavior was and is committed to her recovery. The therapist asks if I would consider allowing limited supervised contact, just one video call to provide closure. I decline politely. Some doors are better left closed. After another 6 months without incident, I finally delete the evidence folder. It feels like releasing a weight I didn't know I was carrying. Quinn and I buy a small house with a yard for Bandit. I get promoted at work. She opens her own bookstore. We talk about marriage, about kids someday. I still think about Megan sometimes, but the thoughts don't carry the same anxiety they once did. I hope she's well. I hope she's found peace. But her story isn't my responsibility anymore. I've learned that you can wish someone well without letting them back into your life. You can forgive without forgetting. You can help someone without saving them. You can move forward without being weighed down by the past. Bandit barks at the mailman from our front window, his black and white fur standing on end as he presses his wet nose against the glass. I smile, sipping my morning coffee on the porch, feeling the warm ceramic mug between my palms. The early autumn air carries a slight chill, but the sun promises a beautiful day ahead. 5 years have passed since everything with Megan. Quinn comes outside, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun, kisses my cheek, and sits beside me on the weathered wooden bench we found at a yard sale last summer. We watch the neighborhood wake up together, neighbors retrieving newspapers, joggers passing with friendly waves. My phone buzzes against the wooden armrest, a text from my old friend Jamie. "Dude, Megan's posting about you again. It's getting ugly." My stomach drops, that familiar knot of anxiety returning instantly. I open social media and see it immediately. A long post from Megan claiming I'd manipulated and abused her, twisted with half-truths and outright lies about our 3-year relationship. Comments flood in, people taking sides without knowing the full story, some former friends expressing disappointment in me, others demanding explanations. Quinn reads over my shoulder, her hand squeezing mine reassuringly. "What are you going to do?" she asks softly. I'd kept everything, every message, every email, every voicemail from those tumultuous months after our breakup. The folder sat untouched on my hard drive for years, labeled simply M evidence. I never wanted to use it, hoping time would heal whatever wounds drove her behavior. But now I had no choice. After careful consideration, I posted screenshots with timestamps showing her contradictions, threats, and manipulation. I included the police reports from when she vandalized my car, slashing the tires and scratching obscenities into the paint, the restraining order paperwork, everything. I didn't attack her personally, just presented the evidence chronologically with minimal commentary. Public opinion shifted quickly. Friends and strangers alike messaged me with support. Some apologized for believing her initially. The post spread beyond our social circle, shared by people concerned about false accusations. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications, to the point where Quinn suggested I turn it off for the evening. Megan escalated. She created fake accounts to harass me, sending threatening messages at all hours. She contacted my workplace with lies about my character, claiming I was unstable and dangerous. My boss called me in, concerned but ultimately supportive when I explained the situation with evidence. She even reached out to my parents, who thankfully knew the whole story already from when I'd sought their advice years ago. One morning, I found my car covered in bright red paint. Security cameras from my neighbor's house caught her in the act, her face clearly visible under the streetlight as she emptied the can over my windshield at 3 a.m. More evidence for the growing file. The restraining order was extended, this time with stricter enforcement provisions. Former friends of Megan started reaching out to me. They shared similar stories of manipulation, lies, and drama. A pattern emerged of someone who would use people until they caught on, then discard them and play the victim. I wasn't special, I was just another chapter in her story, another person who had eventually seen through the facade. Her life began falling apart. She lost her job at the marketing firm when her boss discovered she'd been using company time and resources to harass me. Friends distanced themselves as her behavior became more erratic, her social media filled with increasingly paranoid posts. She was evicted from her apartment after multiple noise complaints from neighbors during her late-night rants about me, some of which she'd live-streamed. Despite everything, I felt bad for her. She clearly needed help beyond what restraining orders and public exposure could provide. Through a mutual acquaintance, I anonymously helped her get a job at a bookstore across town, putting in a good word with the owner who was looking for someone with her background in literature. I made sure she never knew it came from me. I heard she started therapy, made public apologies to several people she'd hurt, including a vague one that seemed directed at me without naming me for a while. Things were quiet. Quinn and I settled into our routine. We adopted a second dog, a calm older girl named Daisy, who balanced out Bandit's energy with her gentle golden retriever patience. Life was good, our small apartment filled with laughter and the comfortable silence of contentment. Then the gifts started arriving, books delivered to my office, always my favorite authors, my favorite snacks left on my car, still in store packaging, notes with inside jokes only Megan would remember, written in her distinctive looping handwriting. I never responded, hoping she'd lose interest if I didn't engage. She showed up at my favorite coffee shop when I was there with Quinn one Saturday morning. She acted surprised to see us, chatted like we were old friends, complimenting Quinn's earrings, while subtly mentioning memories from our relationship. Quinn was polite but confused, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. I explained everything on the drive home, watching Quinn's knuckles whiten as she gripped the steering wheel. The gifts became more frequent. She'd wait outside my office building, pretending to bump into me. She found Quinn's workplace and sent her messages about stealing me and how temporary their relationship would be. Quinn was understandably upset but stood by me with remarkable patience. We documented everything, adding to the file that I'd hoped would never grow again. One night, we heard scratching at our front door around midnight. Through the peephole, I saw Megan trying to pick the lock, muttering to herself. We called the police. They arrived quickly and arrested her, finding lockpicking tools and a disturbing journal in her possession. The evidence file came in handy again during the hearing. The court mandated treatment for her. She spent 6 months in a mental health facility specializing in personality disorders. Her parents reached out to apologize to me and Quinn, inviting us for coffee at a neutral location. They seemed genuinely sorry and concerned for their daughter, showing me photos of a smiling, carefree Megan from childhood. I told them I hoped she got the help she needed, and meant it. After her release, Megan moved to another state, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Through mutual connections, I heard she was doing better. She started a support group for people with similar issues, drawing on her own experiences. She seemed to be channeling her experience into something positive. I was genuinely happy for her, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. 1 year passed with no contact, then another. I kept the evidence file just in case, but stopped checking for updates about her life. One day, while cleaning up digital clutter, I realized I hadn't thought about her in months. After backing it up to a secure cloud location, I deleted the file from my daily computer. Quinn and I got married in a small ceremony with close friends and family in a botanical garden near our hometown. Jamie was my best man. He joked during his speech about how he'd been there through everything, and how happy he was that I found someone who brought out the best in me. Quinn looked radiant in her simple white dress, her vows making me tear up despite my best efforts. We bought a house with a bigger yard for the dogs, a 1950s bungalow that needed work but had good bones, according to the inspector. Quinn's bookstore became successful enough to open a second location across town. I started my own consulting business after years of working for others. We talked about starting a family, researching school districts, and setting up a savings plan. Sometimes I still get anxious when my phone buzzes with an unknown number. Sometimes I catch myself scanning crowds for her face in public places. Old habits die hard, but those moments get rarer with time, like old scars that fade but never completely disappear. Last week, Quinn found an old photo of Megan and me while organizing some boxes in the attic. She asked if I wanted to keep it. I looked at it for a moment, remembering the good times before everything went wrong, the camping trips, the holiday dinners. Then I tossed it in the trash without regret. I ran into one of Megan's old friends at the grocery store yesterday. She told me Megan got married, had a baby, seemed happy. I was glad to hear it. We all deserve second chances and the opportunity to grow. Life isn't perfect. Quinn and I argue sometimes about household chores and finances. Work gets stressful. The dogs destroy things when left alone too long. But it's real, and it's healthy, and it's ours. I don't check my rearview mirror for her car anymore. I don't worry about what she might do next. I've stopped bracing for the next crisis. Sometimes people ask why I didn't press more charges, why I helped her get a job, why I didn't expose her publicly sooner. The truth is complicated. I wanted peace more than revenge. I wanted her to get better, not suffer more. I wanted to move on, Quinn understands this about me. She says it's both my best quality and my biggest weakness. She's probably right. Yesterday we found out Quinn is pregnant. We're terrified and excited. I think about the kind of parent I want to be, the lessons I want to teach our child about boundaries, about kindness, about standing up for yourself while still having compassion for others. I've learned that healing isn't linear. Some days are harder than others, but I'm not looking back anymore. I'm looking forward to our growing family, to our next chapter. The past doesn't disappear, it shapes us, but it doesn't have to define us. Bandit and Daisy are curled up together on the couch. Quinn is reading a book, her free hand resting on her stomach.